Welcome to On the Spot with OPPO, where we connect you with inspiring entrepreneurs and innovators making their mark. We're here in Barcelona for the FineX 9 series launch, and it's a city that celebrates creativity and innovation, the perfect setting to talk about vision, craftsmanship, and the future of beauty. Our guest today is a designer who transcends boundaries between fashion, art, and design, a true architect of beauty. Eric, let's start from the beginning. As a teenager, when the world was full of possibilities, what first drew you to the world of fashion and creation?
Thanks for the introduction, Daniel. And thanks for having me with you in this OPPO event. Well, you know what, teenage, I had one guide in my head that were creativity. I wanted to be in a creative process, whatever it is. I think I always cherish fashion, but most of all, I wanted to be in a creative process. So I could design car. I was designing my mom's clothes without making them, but I was fancying designing, imagining her in clothes. But I loved to design the cars. So mainly teenage was quite an open vision of what creation and creativity in general could be without setting myself on fashion specifically.
Wow. And how old were you back then? Like when you first went to design your mom in clothes?
Oh yeah, before 10, I was already designing my mom's clothes.
So it's very natural for you to...
Well, I'm lucky enough to have a mom that is still very beautiful, but I guess, but she is really beautiful and elegant, and I was very proud to go around with her. And we're from a very modest condition, but yet she was always the most elegant person in the street. People don't always remember, but it's not about money. The allure, the elegance, it's a state of mind. It's something you have. It's no such thing as becoming elegant just because you're buying even a very high quality product.
It comes from within.
Yes.
Yes. So Eric, you studied at prestigious schools and worked in iconic, houses such as Hermès and Chanel. What was the pivotal moment that drew you specifically to the art of Feathercraft?
So yes, that's an interesting question because I used to answer that it was quite like when we say in French, par hasard, or maybe luck. And then I found out with the years working, giving interviews. So actually interviews are always interesting because they push you to really go through your life and understand what you've been doing and why sometime, and understand that behind every situation there is meaning. My very specific story about the feathers is that I always thought that I met feathers when I met Monsieur Le Marier, the Feathercraft master in France that taught me everything I know. But in reality, my first contact with the feathers, I was going to church. And I was a very small kid. And I was obsessed with this painting with angels. And I was looking at them and focusing on this very specific thing that will make them be different from us, the wings. And I always thought as a kid, I think this is my people. And they forgot me here. And they forgot to give me my wings. And I always thought that one day I would have back those wings. I know it's scary, but I spent years thinking that maybe if I would dare just let go and jump out somewhere without fear to lose anything, meaning life, the wings would appear. And obviously I never dared. So I decided that I would go closer to the sky in everything I would do. That's how I ended up working at the airport. At Charles de Gaulle.
Airport, okay.
Yeah.
Airport.
That's why I'm so organized when I go to the airport. That's why I know how to deal with companies, with the luggages, because I know what's the processes behind, because I was the guy, you know, when you just drop at the check-in your luggage and you don't carry, 24, 25 kilos, fine, or not fine. Because there is a guy there that will carry your bag from the track to something else and to the, I was that guy. Yeah.
You were
as a
handler.
as a teenage.
Yes.
In for summer, you know,
Okay,
summer jobs, and it was for me a way to be close to what was the closest element to the birds. Birds were the one that were dealing with the air and the sky, so obviously closer to the angels. So could not really make friends with many birds in Paris. So pigeon would not let me go fly with them. So there will probably more pooing on my shoes or on my clothes. So I decided to go another way, and I went to Charles de Gaulle and worked there. And I could drive these little cars that carries all the luggages to drive them to the airplane. And when I was next to these huge machines, I was kind of fascinated because the actual design of a plane, I could not even imagine how close we could be from nature study by doing these things. And that's how I learned, for example, that the wings of a plane are flexible, because in the air, otherwise they would break.
Yes.
So then in the sport, for example, I loved everything that would make me jump. So I did ice skating, and believe me, my best exercise was jumping and turning on myself, and everything that would make me jump and be in the air, I was happy. And in the end, I choose fashion for the studies, and I had to face something a bit difficult as an younger wannabe designer, stylist, whatever. I was very bad at drawing.
Are you?
Yeah, I was very bad. No, I'm not. I'm not anymore.
Okay. You changed it.
Thanks God. But I was. I mean, in my classroom, we have this huge competition because they take very little people, amount of people every year. And when I got received and they accepted me, the last thing I was expecting is to be that bad. I mean, so I had to work really hard.
Yeah.
Because there's things that are within you, and there are things that are technicity that you need to just work on. But what first was first a weakness became a strength, because of course I had to compensate. And my way to compensate was to using colors and be fascinated by textures and structures. Making 3D.
3D, yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that's where it started. And obviously, as focusing on textures, 3D, and colors, much more than the other that could just be so good at having lines, I wanted to share the sensibility and the sensuality of anything that you could imagine as a fabric. And then, of course, in terms of excellency, meaning clothing with excellency, we think embroidery, embellishment, and then obviously feathers came in. But I didn't want to learn this.
Yes.
They were part of this embellishment system. So one day, I got invited to be part of an exhibition in Lebanon. And the design project I had was to mix in my embroidery as many materials as possible. I put the feathers on these drawings, and that's how I got to meet a woman that were sponsoring that event, and that would be in charge of ostrich farm from South Africa.
Yes.
And so she gave me ostrich feathers. Was first time I was seeing ostrich feathers, so big. And that was my first contact with feathers. And she happened to be a friend of Monsieur Le Maurier. And she introduced me to him right away when she saw what I was doing without any knowledge of the Feathercraft. And he decided to be my mentor. And that's how it's all started.
So it was a very pivotal moment. But back then, did you find that, okay, this is what I'm meant to do? Or was it a later project or a moment that you found that Feathercraft is, because that was the first interaction, but what if it's not meant to be for you?
No, the first interaction with the feathers, when she gave me those ostrich feathers, I was just into my project in a design process.
Yes.
And I thought, well, this is not at all what I was expecting, because obviously I was having the regular vision of what a feather could be, so closer to what you see on Indian, headpiece, like American Indian, or the boa for the feminine, whatever girly thing. And so I was with this huge thing floating. I was like, wow, interesting thing. So, well, freedom and creativity comes as well from the difficulty of what you're facing. If it's all smooth, I think that you passing opportunity to discover new things and be innovative and go further in your mindset, and you never change and you never evaluate. So I decided to use those feathers the way I could without no techniques. But then when I entered Le Moyer after him seeing my work and asking me to be on his side, reviewing all his archives, to renew a little bit, refresh, and a little bit, he was already an old man, but he had this conscience that he needed like a young eye to propose to all these designers that he was working with, all these big masters of fashion, new understanding of his materials. So I did not realize at first how privileged I was to be picked, to be that person, to receive that patrimony, that cultural patrimony at that level, because I could not understand the scale of the
what you were
the
dealing
whole
with.
entity.
Yes.
Exactly. I had no clue. But yet I could feel it was matching. And I was already connected to Hermes. Everybody would tell me, you will not go back to Hermes, you'll stay to these who people? Because nobody knew about this craft. Nobody knew really about that.
Yeah.
I mean, except for people in haute couture environment and very luxury bubble. Nobody knew.
Yes.
And Monsieur Le Maillet was not someone advertising and doing interviews. He was very humble and very shy and always focused on what has to be done is make sure that what we do is properly done, and that is a total devotion to our material. It's a natural element. The first thing he told me is that if I can't show respect for my feathers, it won't work.
Yeah.
And so my first feeling was just, it was not an easy one to deal with,
I couldn't imagine.
but I could feel the fair treatment, and this energy to protect his people, his savoir-faire, his beautiful feathers, his patrimony, his families. And this was for me very close to my family education. So I think I gave credit first to that. Then I realized that being there after a few months, I felt like I was in the right place, that no other place would give me all this combination of good feeling, pleasure, and sensation of being where you should be. And at that moment, you have to really forget about all the codes, the social codes, what people tell you. I mean, even back in the days, everybody would have jumped on opportunity to be better integrated to a big name, already famous worldwide and representing whatever. And I was on purpose picking a craft someone that is meant to be behind the scene. And I felt comfortable with that. Nobody understood, but I did not care. I've always been very spontaneous and following my instinct. I think it's important. And then what he was asking me, which was respecting the feathers that became love as well, I think it's something that doesn't come from anywhere. If you can't have this ability to have an open heart, open soul, then the connection that you will have with anything around you will probably be more, studied and a little bit more, less organic and less driven by really your emotional field. And I know this is, in terms of business, not exactly what people want to hear, but as an entrepreneur now,
Yes.
I can tell that there is place for emotional field. It just needs to have boundaries. Cutting with emotions, I think it's the worst thing to do. It's admitting that we are only doing with this business articulation. If you acknowledge that what you do is something that you have to be first connected with to make sure you do it properly, so then you can pass it on someone else, even by selling it, then people will actually receive what you do in a very different way because they will feel the care
Definitely.
and they will feel the energy that you put there. Of course, they know that you're making money. They know that you have like a business process, but they will feel that you did not lose the fact that it's still a way to communicate
Do you respect
with
your,
it.
do you respect your craft?
And you respect the people.
Yes.
You respect the people that you're actually doing the craft for. Because the specificity of crafting is that it's never something you do for yourself.
Yes.
It's a service you do for someone else.
Others, yeah.
So you have to acknowledge what you do, respect what you do, and I think respect the person in front of you, and that drives you in a very different direction in the way even I manage my company or deal with my the people that works with me, because what I learned as well is that really that became conscious when I started spending these years with Monsieur Le Marier, is that you can't build yourself by yourself. You will not experiment the next level. The one level where you're fed by all the people that you accept to receive the knowledge from and that they accept to give you the knowledge to.
There's no elevation. It's a two-way road.
So you can definitely decide not to have it, but if you decide to go for that and share and receive and give, it's a very beautiful process and you never want to give up with it. And it drives you a very different way to do your business.
Exactly. And you've collaborated with some of the biggest names in couture. So Chanel, Dior, Vera Wang. How do you approach balancing your artistic vision with creative DNA of each fashion houses?
Well, again, I'll be back to Monsieur Le Marier. He literally took me by the hand. And I can remember my first meeting with Monsieur Saint Laurent himself, and I'm saying to the guys when they come to work with me, I'm saying, not the logo, the real person.
Yeah.
Because the whole young crowd, they know Givenchy, but it's a logo, it's a brand, it's a t-shirt, it's a whatever. Well, I got this very specific moment to meet these people in person. I mean, Monsieur Le Marier just took me with him as his kid, as his pupil, as his Padawan.
Yes. Yeah. Padawan.
The Padawan, exactly. Young Padawan.
Are you a Jedi now? Are you a Jedi now?
I hope I'm on my way too.
Okay. Very humble.
And it took me with him, literally by the hand. And because he chose me, he was telling, and I saw him. He was totally clear and transparent and saying, Monsieur Saint Laurent, this is Eric. This is the person that I decided to give my knowledge to.
Yes.
And would you please let me have him with me?
Yes.
And then I was observing how he would interact with them. And how my boss was actually stepping from Monsieur Saint Laurent to Monsieur Givenchy to Karl Lagerfeld to Jean-Paul Gaultier to other names that people probably forgot now, but that were big, like Gérard Pipard, because at that moment Nina Ricci was still a couture brand. Gianfranco Ferrer, that was in Dior before Galliano. So he was taking me there, Jean-Louis Scherer, Emmanuel Ungaro, and none of these houses would ever make any collection without seeing him. They were sitting all the big masters of crafting in Paris every season. Even if they were ending up not maybe working with them because maybe this season no flowers, no feathers, no whatever, or no embroidery. But yet they would never spend the season without meeting them. It was a human thing, something that they were evaluating, spending time with people that they're allowed to get in their minds and that they needed to keep the connection with. They would never avoid that. So twice a year at least, we would go to all of them. And for months and months, I went with him until the time that they said, like Monsieur Saint Laurent one day, thank you, Andre, I can keep on with Eric as well. Oh, wow. Because he felt that I could understand what he was going to explain about the collection and how he would explain the work he wanted to see on stage.
At the first meeting, was it overwhelming, meeting with your mentor, these big names?
Well,
do you still remember the feeling?
I do. Overwhelming is all my life overwhelming.
Oh, so it's the constant.
It's a constant.
Okay.
Because weirdly enough, it's not because you're meeting someone important and famous.
No.
It's just because suddenly you're facing someone that you don't want to disappoint.
Yeah.
And not only one, two. When I was having Mr. Lemoyne with me, I didn't want him to be disappointed. I didn't want the designer to be disappointed. So it was overwhelming all the time. But this is a focus on work and results and make sure that you understand exactly what they want from you. And they don't speak the same language, all of them. You go to see Galliano is speaking a certain way. Alexander McQueen was speaking another way. Some of them were not even speaking. They were like, do you get what I'm saying? But you did not say much yet. And you're like, okay. But you see what you better understand. So you learn to jump in all these people's mind and make them feel that when you're with them, you're with them. You can't let them even feel that you have to go with others. They know, but when you're with one, you're dedicated.
Yeah, dedication. Yeah, you're among the last feather artisans in France. Yeah, a living link to an almost vanished craft, an important craft. What does that responsibility mean to you personally? I assume it's very heavy.
Well, luckily,
yes.
Very quickly when I started, I realized that, of course, everybody around me was surprised that I was working with Monsieur Le Marier, that they didn't know. If you did not see it on TV, did not see it on a magazine, it's not important. No designer at that level of excellence like haute couture would ever do any show without seeing him. It was as important as Monsieur Le Sage. But the difference was Monsieur Le Sage was giving interviews to everybody and he was on TV all the time. And people, because he has this communication thing. Monsieur Le Marier was not like that. So I took it over him and I decided to have this communication on and started to think, okay, you guys don't know what is Feathercraft? I'm going to give you what Feathercraft is. And so it was an extra work to have all this communication stuff on top of the work. So I increased the job and now overwhelming myself.
Yes.
even worse. But the result was that finally got more young people to get interested in it. And we received more interns. And I'm very proud to say that the work I did brought people to much more and a level of interest never experimented before for that craft. And now, Oh, we're no longer vanishing. There is so many people that work the feathers from at any level. I'm trying in my responsibility to make sure that the ones that wants to reach excellency can always have my door open. The others, they do what they want.
So you introduced the angel painting you saw at the church to these people. Would you
Yes.
agree? This analogy? Yes.
Yes, it's a good analogy. Not always by talking about the story, but by, I mean, what is an angel? It's someone that cares, someone that protects you, someone that helps you to go forward, guide you. So that's what I'm trying to do. As all these guys, all these mentors I had, they all became not only mentors, sometimes they became friends like Monsieur Mugler, Galliano. The relationship we have and we developed is not only special, but it's privileged, and they protected me. They helped me be confident, trust myself, trust my vision, my creativity, yet making sure that I was understanding what they needed. But these guys made me understand as well that whoever you are, they all made me understand that there's no such thing as a lonely worker doing it all. And it's like noble to acknowledge that you need others to keep going.
And it takes courage as well to say you need support, you need help.
Well, you know, when you actually know it, courage is for people that think that sometimes they have to prove and that they maybe would have it bigger by being by themselves. But what is bigger if you have the whole cake by yourself? Good thing about a cake is to share.
Share. Hey, we share our tiramisus and our
Yes.
creme brulee.
Exactly. And
Speaking
it's
of
funnier
food,
that
yeah,
if
it's
you're
funnier.
like lonely hitting the whole thing,
Oh,
okay,
right.
you're stopping yourself, but well, whatever.
We had this
Whatever.
conversation during dinner. It's like
Yeah.
we only
we
enjoy
just-
food.
Oh, she's moving.
It's moving.
She's alive.
It's alive.
Alive. That's life. We build life. I mean, a lot of people feel that feather is kind of morbid because they think that it's dead animal.
It's
Feathers is definitely the most alive element, never dies. So this is life, and in my responsibilities that we were talking about is to show how we can work. It's not technically only, as well in the consciousness of these kind of topics like freedom, life, motion, dimension, having feathers completely flat on a fabric with no texture, or maybe only one feather type or whatever, or and cut like, when I say poorly done, is that just all the same with a pattern. This is so away from what nature shows on an everyday basis. There is the perfection that you see and that you can feel that build the actual beauty notion in our minds as human beings is within this observation of nature, and is acknowledging that perfection is within imperfection as well.
Yeah, and with technology, it's shaping every creative field to a certain extent, right? From design tools to digital storing. How has it changed your process or the way you approach your art?
Technology always been a fascination to me. My father was working on computers. He was part of the first people that were, the stock exchange in Paris. When they took it from the very old-fashioned system with all the guys shouting, blah, blah, blah,
yeah.
and it was like a coding
Okay.
to transform it into what it is now. And so very young, I remember the first computer, and I have the tracking process, all the evolution of the computer, and then the phone. The phone, I'm telling you, that was crazy. I think handphone and internet, these two things were the two major moments in my life in terms of contact with technology. Even more than computer, because computers, because of my dad's work, I was quite used to it. But then suddenly, internet and handphone was something for everybody on an everyday base, and that was crazy. I mean, when I was young, as a teenager, nobody would ever imagine that we would eventually have a phone in our pockets one day, and a phone that you can actually write a letter to someone anywhere in the world, and that it would receive right away without posting it in a mailbox.
Bounded by physical
Yeah.
medium.
That the first time I heard about internet was a girlfriend of mine. I was at school. I thought she was joking. She was actually explaining the internet kind of. I was like, what is she talking about? She's crazy. She thinks that we're gonna have like access to all the books everywhere, blah 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 blah. Just looking at the computer, where is that coming from? Oh, and so it was a real shock. And then came the smartphone. Wow. But truly, I think that the most important is still what we decide to see, what we're able to see. Technology can't do anything if we're not with it. So it can't replace for me what we are able to do as a creative process. It's a tool. And the more efficient the tool is, normally the more efficient our creativity will be. But if we Francis thinking that the creativity will come from technology on itself, for me it's a wrong direction.
Yeah, I remember one moment yesterday that struck me was when you were using this toy, the teleconverter kit. One of the picture you said you felt inspired by the picture because of the details that you always pay attention to details. So yeah, that struck me, and yeah.
But that's exactly that. What I'm saying is that exactly the technology is there to help you.
Yes, it's a tool.
It's a new friend to help being faster, seeing things that we don't see normally. Like I was talking about abilities, some animals can see so precisely everything. They can see in dimension. They can. Well, we have this human vision that is already quite great, and suddenly we have this technology we can put on to get into things. And yesterday with this telescope, that was crazy. I could stay like hours and hours and hours because it's like becoming someone else. But I'm not expecting the tool to do the work for me.
You still have to do the work.
Yes, I still have to look. And it's funny how we live the same moment. We don't look at the same things, or we even sometimes look at the same thing, but we don't see the same things. So it's actually showing that it's not the tool that do the work. Everyone has his specialty and his specificity and the way he interfere with things.
That's the beauty of being human.
That's the beauty of life.
Yes.
Singularity within unicity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Touch me. No, you've said that dreaming is not a lie. You know, why is this idea so central to your philosophy?
I think that technology is never to be blamed. What can be controversial is what we do with it, what we choose as human beings to do with technology. It's extraordinary that we are able to build things now, and whatever we do is wonderful. It's just going with what we are as human beings, a creative species. Not all the species can do that. We are very specific on this planet. But what we do with it is our choice, and it's different. So what I meant by that is that having in your mind a will, a wish to be better, to be something else, to show facets that you don't show all the time. That's one thing. Transform all this into a reality that doesn't exist and pretend that it is the truth. That's another choice. And that's why sometimes I have a hard time with the way we use technology and specifically social media. Because this can bring you to literally jump from dreaming and say you're actually dreaming and say, look, what is my dream? To look, this is me. But you know it's not true. But this helps you doing it.
Yeah.
Again, technology never to be blamed.
Yeah.
You're the one deciding for what you're going to use this technology for. And one day I wish that we all can actually share the same will to have it be just like a better way to be together and be generally gentle, honest, and loving to each other. I know it sounds a bit silly,
No, it's not
but
silly.
obvious is not silly.
No, people just need to eat good food with each other.
Exactly.
Life's too short to eat bad food. We
Bad
need
food,
to
exactly.
share more
We should
tiramisus.
not even find bad food
Yeah.
when you think about it. Why would you do bad? Why would we do bad food? Sometimes, you know, the obvious in terms of notion in anthropology, if you look at how we develop ourselves, the culture, the society, the group, obvious notion like being good to others.
Yes.
Remember that together we're stronger.
Yes.
All these are the notion that we forget the quickest.
Yes.
Because we so are sure that we know them that we don't even see that we don't apply them.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm so obsessed with the obvious, because of the simplicity of it within the sophistication and the complexity of life. Its principles are so simple all the time. And that's why we have repetition. It's not boring. It's just showing unicity, unity, and simplicity that you can find within complexity and sophistication. Like looking at waves. None of the waves that you were looking at will be the same.
Ever. Just like feathers.
Just like feathers.
Yes.
But yet, you'll be seeing the same process repeated
Yes.
and repeated and repeated forever.
Yes.
And that's not boring.
Shall we go check some waves for the product launch?
We
Yeah.
can do that.
Lovely, lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eric, thank you for sharing your story and vision with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's it for this episode of On the Spot with OPPO. Yes. Stay tuned for more inspiring
Yeah.
conversations and
Go
Thank you,
OPPO.
Eric.
This is just a crazy creative product. Make it the best of your life because that can help.
yeah, like make your moment.
Oh yes, make your moment. I loved it when I saw the first box. Yeah. But and I said yesterday I showed you. We made it our moment for sure. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.